Hello everybody and welcome to another tutorial in camera and lens repair. And this time I was thinking of making a video about how you can measuring when if you want to regrease your Nikon lens series E, the 50mm 1.8. And in this case, this lens is working perfect. But if you want to, let's say you want to take it apart and re-grease it with some grease. But you need to do something before you actually fully take it apart and cleaning and add new grease. So in this video, I will simply show where to measure, and I also make some notes, which can be very handy for you in case you did not take a measure. It's happened for somebody. And it's good to have some notes, kind of, because there's no service manual for those that tells anything about that. So this is a service. So I will not clean the helicoids because my lens is actually working good. But I will just show you how it looks when you take it apart with different, there might be some different issues in here somewhere where it can be good to have some kind of a guide, a guidance. So let's jump into it. It's not that hard, but there could be some issues that I will show when we come deeper into the lens. And we need a few tools. A JRS 2.5mm crosshead is a Japanese lens, so it has to be a Japanese screwdriver, right? A tweezer is very handy, and a thing you can make some scratch with. It could be a needle, or I prefer my dentist tool, which is really good. We also will need some isopropyl alcohol, 99%, and a few cotton buds in this case. And of course a tool to measure something. In this case I would, before I re-grease it long time ago, and I use some liquid moly, and I also try it with, super lube, which actually work quite good. But let's see how it looks in here. So take it apart, it's quite easy. That's also very, it's not really a big issue. We need some cones. Those rubber cones from Japan Hobby Tool. No, I'm not sponsored by any company. So that's just to make that clear. We need the number 6 for this, that we jump into it. And the name ring here, name plate, someone call it. We simply add it on here. It might see, you can see it doesn't really fit as it should be, but you can do it anyway. Or you could go into the plumber's section in the hardware store and buy a rubber gasket, something. And in this case, this one is, the outer is measure something like 47. Let's see how it measure inside. Here, yeah, it's something like 40mm. But the thing is, those rubber gasket is really sticky rubber. It will say there's a lot of friction when you put it on. So I will just go for the gasket here and simply unscrew it. So it we doesn't have to do any measuring at the moment, but now comes in the scratch. We have to set some marks in here, and my reference is the index mark. So for this ring here, which is a ring that sits with 3 screws, need to come off to get deeper into it. So that's why I said I already have been. So set an arrow here so you know where it should sit in line with the index mark. That's our reference. So we'll take that off, and we will do even more scratch inside here. I mean, no one will ever see him, so I mean, there's no need for, I mean, you do not need to make a huge big scratch. It's not that, but it's your only service, I mean only backup when you work with that old lenses. Now you can make it a little easier to set it in the near end, because this ring will not move. So take it off, that's it. So next thing is set it back to infinity, and inside here there is the front lens group, sits with 3 screws in a kind of a frame. I don't know what the name is in English, but we need to set a scratch up here and also down here, because the focusing ring, which here sits in a kind of a spinner ring with 3 screws around, and to have that in correct place, we simply set a scratch up here. So they are almost in line. It doesn't really be that precise, but there's another thing in here. Probably, hopefully you can see it. There's also a mark in here of the inside of the actual focusing ring, and it needs to be in line with this mark here. So the two, when you put it back in again, this press ring, lock ring or so, will have the correct position, and the focusing ring will have the correct position too. So set it to infinity, and then we take out those 3 screws holding this ring, and don't move the focusing ring yet, because at the moment everything is lined up in a way, because of all of those mark we set. That's important. It's good with a magnetized screwdriver. And then we can lift it off, not turning that, but just lift it out of the helicoid. It can come free without taking out the lens assembly. So now we set it here. So next thing is, and that's important, set a mark here, also in line with the index mark. We can also make a scratch down here. You see the index mark is here. So a mark, another mark, and that's what with the lens assembly, front lens assembly. And so we have our things in correct order. Then we can take the mount off, and that's just straightforward, 3 screws, no problem. And you can just set the lens to aperture 22. If in the case of the screws in here are really tight, Then we will use some isopropyl alcohol to actually make the thread lock in here, if there was any. So you simply use a few drops on here, and of course on all three of them, to let the isopropyl alcohol be sucked into the screw thread, and in that way soften the thread lock. And in some of those old lenses, they use a lot of thread lock, and it makes some problems back then. I mean, now actually. So you can see it can be a problem, but of course in my case, since I've been into the lens before, it's not a problem. Next thing is, take off the mount, and it looks like this, and the back here is spring loaded. It will say there is a spring somewhere in here. No problem with that. You don't need to do anything about that. Now, then we take off the aperture ring, the plastic aperture ring. Take it off. No problem with that. And you see, there's no steel ball there. This is just a spring that makes the click here. So no problem with that. Next thing is that we have to measure, and that's the important thing in this case when working with helicoids. So let's see if my notes I mean, maybe I have moved this the focusing ring in here, the helicoid, middle helicoid, a little, but it doesn't really matter in this case. So if we set, and the lenses was actually already set to infinity, that's where my marks are up here, and there should be something like, it will say from the front here, this front, not this front, but this front here, until the back here, this back here, and there should be something like 12.5 millimeter. So let's see if there's something like that. Well, okay, there is 12.50 millimeter, and at infinity, from the inner helicoid till the back of the outer helicoid. Let's see how it goes there. Yeah, you see, if you really want to take out the front lens, you can, but the measure, where I actually measure, it's from here, not here, the ring that hold the front lens assembly, but more the plastic here. It goes from here to the very back here. And I would say at infinity there was something like 16.72 kind of there. So it's fine. So that's our main measuring. So let's see what's happened if we take off the, I mean, we have to take out the inner helicoid. It will say together with the front lens assembly, I mean also the back lens assembly in case. But before doing so, we have to do some measuring, because the helicoid key, not really measuring, but we have to make some scratch. You see, there are two helicoid keys here, one there, there. Sit with two screws, and they have to sit correct. I don't know if it's possible to exchange them, setting this one over here or the other. But it's good to set a mark. So this one will be the helicoid key 1, and the other one will be number 2. So yeah, I'll just set a mark here, 2, and also on this helicoid key. So we can see, yeah, we now know where they should sit. So that's the main and the very important thing to do. So now I can actually take out the inner, it will say the helicoid with the lens assembly and aperture assembly all in one. And by taking off we'll just do so. So number 1 up here. And a good thing is also, just so we have that in place, it's good to actually set a scratch here, there, and also over here. And it's the same with the other helicoid key. It is if, in case, the helicoid key has to sit in the middle, and the same with the other one. So just make sure they sit correct. There can be some adjustment of that. But I'll just begin to take off the helicoid keys, and then we can take apart the inner helicoid. So, nothing special about that. There are some grease on it, and there should also be some grease on it, because it slides up and down, or in and out, of the plastic here. And that's why the grease you use do not have to contain, must not contain any solvent kind of acetone or so, because it can actually damage the plastic here. So now, let's see. Where is my infinity? That's my starting point. So you can see here, I can move the inner helicoid. And how much does it have to come off? So let's say back of the outer helicoid. So we need to take this out, and our arrow here is our starting point, and where it comes off, it will show you. The inner helicoid, which we have here, does have to move a little over half a turn, so it comes off at around 5 o'clock over here. We start at 12 o'clock and it will come off around here. So if we have to be careful of the mark here. It will say this mark here. It doesn't have to move at all. So you maybe have to press a little on the middle helicoid if it's a bit sticky, the inner. So we can try to turn it, and it has to turn that way, so counterclockwise. And we can just move it. Oh, the middle helicoid will just also move. That's not good. So we can just have here, and I can keep no, you cannot. you have to put a finger around it here so it will not move. So let's get started. Our starting point, and we have the mark here. It will come off around here, and let's see what's happened. Boom. So it's there. And when it comes off, you simply set a scratch here and write something on it, off. That's very important. And then we can take it out. So put it aside, no problem. And I still have my middle helicoid sitting here with the mark. And if we look here, the middle helicoid has to go a little over 5.5 turn till it comes off at around, we have 12, 7:30 or so over here. Not fully 8, but around 7:30 or so. And the thread is really fine. So and we have to go, it's really slippery because of the grease. So let's see what happened. And I have to go, it will say, let's go back again. Where's my mark? Over here. So if I, in case of, oh, did I do it correct? Well, I can just measure again. And it has to be something like 12:50. You see? So no problem. That is why it is so important. So it's your backup if you count how many turns. Okay, did it? I lost one turn. But you can always go back and then you have your measure. And then you can start over again. Just in case something. Now, we have it here. And I can simply go it will say 1 and 2. Let's see where it is. 3 and 4. And we just need a little 1.5 turn up to 5. So when I come over here, it will come off at 5.5 turn. So we only need to do a little over half a turn to when it gets off. And here it comes. Now set a mark here where it actually came off. That's very, very important. Because it's multi-thread, this helicoid, not only one. So this is how it looks in here. You do not really need to take off the index mark ring if you want to clean it. And yeah, so I'll just put it back in again. And very, very important, when you do this, it's there is no hard press or so, because the thread is actually very fine. So if you get the wrong thread, you could damage it. So have a feeling of when you put it on, it has to say click in a way. Sometimes it does. And then you can go back. Then the half a turn. And then I can go all the way back to where it was without counting it, because I can just measure when I think, okay, we are now there. We are not there yet. Let's see how long it is. Well, you can see it missed something, one turn. So when a cup comes up here with the scratch I set in the beginning, my index mark, I should actually end it up with something like what I get from. So you can see the mark you set is very extremely important in this case. And it's the same with the inner helicoid. So I can simply just put it on here where my off mark was. So if I go to there and find the thread, I can just put it in, and then we are almost back again, say around there. So let's measure. It will probably not be fully precise, but I think it will be very close to where it should be. So you can see here 16.72, and then I have my measure again. It will say around there. So that's actually very important. So now my two marks which I set, and there was one thing I just forget, because the helicoid key should of course sit the correct place. So I set my scratch here, but I should also set, you should set a mark here, because the helicoid key has to sit correct in relation to where the helicoid is, the focus is. So there should also be a number 2 here and number 2 here, and also of course with the helicoid key, so you know the exact position of that. So now I can put in the this is the number 2 key, and make sure when you re-grease it, also make those helicoid key clean with something solvent, and you also give them a little grease so they have to slide very easy, because if they are sticky, well, the focus will also be quite sticky. And what kind of grease? Well, as I said, there are many types of grease, but I just found out that the LM47 and sometimes the super lube will also work fine. It's not for everything, but again, it depends on what lens you work with. Some lenses does have to have a more light grease, and it's also a personal preference. If you want a focusing ring that is very tight, or you want something that is really light in the movement. So the helicoid key, have to sit correct here. And I haven't tightened anything yet, because you need to have both of the helicoid keys in place before you tighten the screws. If not, it can be a little sticky. And then you have to loosen the screws again E. So there. Find the correct thread and see, okay, I think it will be fine. Maybe we can put the whole front section in and simply, which I will show you to make it more easy to make some small adjustment. So I will simply add the focusing ring here, put it on, just so we know where the arrows here, this arrow here, where I set the little mark here in line with the index mark. That's the most important. And then I can add the focusing ring itself. Has to be at infinity. Then I can put it on. So, oh yeah, there is a stop here, there, and of course on the other end. So if it's at infinity, it will stop down here with this mark here, I mean in here, and when you turn it all the way to near end, it will be that stop here. Yeah, they sit opposite. So we can just put it on. There. Don't put it directly on the surface because the lens element here is exposed. So don't put it directly on the surface, but hold it in your hand. So now we can put the 3 screws for the focusing ring in and then work on the back to see if we can, if there is any stiffness in the focusing ring, so we can adjust the helicoid key. So now we are, let's say, safe form, almost. It's better with 2 screws. There and there. So, and when you re-grease the helicoids, don't use too much. Doesn't have to be a film, thin film, but it's okay. But I will just set it to near end, and then set the screws here. Just tighten a little at a time, and then the other one up here to the other next. So, and let's see how good it is. Wow. So if by accident the 2 helicoid keys sit a little out of alignment, it can make it really stiff when you turn the focusing ring. So now we can assemble the whole lens again. Put the aperture ring on. So, and put the mount on. You have a good grip on this. It's difficult with greasy gloves. And set the pin in here into there. So it's correct. And it's better when the lens is set at infinity. So the the gap here is closer to the pin. If we do like this, it can be more difficult to catch the gap down here. So it's just better to set it to infinity. Then put it in here, find the gap, and then lower the mount over it. So, and then we just need to set the 3 screws in. Maybe I will try with different greases. I now and then buy some new grease just to try to see how good will it work, or maybe not. Because it's so difficult to get the what you say, real grease. So now we are almost back again, and then I can put in the front ring here. And since I have my infinity here, I have my mark here, which I set in the beginning. I know where it should sit. Remember, in this lens there are 6 screws. So when you see here, well, you think, okay, I can just take off 3 screws and take the whole lens assembly out. No, you cannot, because it's actually the front lens group is sitting with 6 screws that actually sit into the middle helicoid, and the inner helicoid. That's why you need to take it apart. So there's no shortcut for that. Shame on. But it's not that hard to work with this lens. I can just put this on here, then put in the rest of the screws, and then we have a working lens again. So there, and there. So on with the nameplate, and we are done. So going a little backward to catch the thread, you say click there, and then we can just screw it in. Tighten it. Good. So, and then we are back again with a fully working lens, and yeah, I hope you can use this info about the measuring of this lens, so it will, in case you get something wrong, you can just follow this. So that's all for me. Hope you enjoy the content. See you soon. Bye bye.